Rama 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 Janaki Kanta Smaranam Jai Vighna Vinayaka Murti ki Sharada Devi ki Valli Devasena Kanta Smaranam Namah Parvati Pataye Jai Parashakti Mata ki Janaki Kanta Smaranam Sada Sarvatra Govinda Nama Sankirtanam Bola Pundalika Varade Sadguru Jnanananda Murti ki Anjaneya Swami ki Samasta Bhakta Mandali ki Harinarayana 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 Durita Nivarana Harinarayana Durita Nivarana Paramanamunda Sada Shiva Shankara Bhakta Jana Priya Pankaj Lochana Bhakta Jana Priya
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Bhagavad Mela Vidyalaya Meltur and Lasya Melalaya Bengaluru for the 4th year in continuum curates this dedicated online festival in memory of its founder Guru, Meltur, late Sri S. Natarajan, and thereby fulfills his profound vision for cultural unity through art. Connecting art and artists from different nationalities in a cross-cultural collaboration, this grand international festival features legendary artists and young upcoming achievers across the globe with varying culture as tribute on the 81st year of Guru Meltur Sri S. Natarajan. It becomes more significant this year as we are honored with the prestigious international recognition, the Home for Humanity Award from France, whose founders, Professor Alexander Schiffer and Dr. Rama Mani, have done global work for peace through various humanitarian relief measures. We also pay homage to Pandit Sri R. Visveswaran, an exemplary musician who is none other than the nephew of the legendary musician, scholar, actor and composer Vidwan Sri G. N. Balasubramanian. With his Ardhangini, Padma Shri Guru Chitra Vishveshwaran, Pandit Sri R. Vishveshwaran conquered the hearts of his Sahridayas with his mellifluous voice and dynamic vocal renditions for the Chidambaram Academy of Performing Arts, Chennai. In her own words, Guru Chitra Vishveshwaran says they were intertwined for the higher cause of propagating the divine art. A Vainika, a guitarist, an intriguing composer, his split-second humor, his love for good food, his photographic sensibilities, These left one in admiration of his magnificent persona. Standing tall and handsome, he was ever humble about his illustrious lineage. We also offer our tribute through this Samarpana Mela to Pandit Sri R. Vishweshwaran, a Santur maestro, on his 80th year, as we relive the close bond he and Guru Sri S. Natarajan and the mutual respect and regards they had for each other when it came to sounds, hi-fi speakers and studios. We seek the blessings of our Parama Guru, Srimati Chitra Vishweshwaran, on this auspicious moment as we carry our noble mission of Bhagavad Mela Vidyalaya in its 11th year. We also express our gratitude to Vidushri Sukanya Ravinder for sharing the treasured memories through pictures and photographs of Pandit Sri R. Vishweshwaran. Bhagavad Mela Vidyalaya Meltur and Lasya Melalaya Bengaluru presents Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, Sanskritik Sahakarita, Vishwasya Vibhinna Deshanam, Samskritakkanam, Samyojave Chhati, connecting art, artists across nations with cross-cultural collaborations in tribute with deep reverence to Guru Meltur late S. Natarajan and Guru Patni Srimati Anuradha Natarajan. Pranams.
Anjananandanam Meeram Janaki Shokanashanam Kapishamakshamantaram Vande Lanka Bhayankaram Buddhir Balam Yashodhairyam Nirbayaktam Marogada Ajadyam Vakpadudvanja Harumasmaranad Bhave Mandasmida Mukhambojam Mahaniya Gunarnavam.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. I am Purni Iyer, introducing Sir Kiran Rajagopalan. Vidwan Kiran Rajagopalan is a visionary, executive director, dancer, choreographer, educator and notary public with 15 years of experience in arts education and non-profit organization. His extensive background in senior project management, grants administration and arts program development. His administrative and artistic work rooted in DEI, culturally responsive pedagogy and social justice to bridge communities of color through art. Over 25 years of his dance training and performance experience in several world dance forms, he develops and presents full-length cross-cultural, educational and multidisciplinary productions and curricula. His inspiring artistic journey includes Executive Director at Kalapriya, Senior Program Director and Interim Executive Director at the Arts Horizon, Co-founder and Artistic Director at the Daya Arts, Adjunct Dance Faculty at the Marymount Manhattan College, Teaching Artists at the NYC Public and Charter Schools. We are honored to present Vidwan Kiran Rajagopalan as part of the Satchidananda Nataraja Samarpana Mela 2024, where he shares his collaborative work with Kandyan art. Vaisravana, commonly known as Kubera, is the Buddhist, Jain and Hindu deity of wealth in the form of natural resources, currency and commerce. In some depictions, he is the pot-bellied, self-serving, dark-skinned ruler of the Yakshas, an indigenous tribe of magical healers and shamans, coveted for their knowledge of the earth's secret, but feared by the respectable society. In others, he is the radiant, noble, golden-skinned guardian of the north and official treasurer to the gods. His shape-shifting in religious art and literature is reflective of the South Asian society's framing of good and evil around wealth, caste and complexion. His endurance in collective consciousness symbolizes mankind's relentless pursuit of wealth in an era dominated by consumerism and driven by instant gratification. These themes will be explored in 3 acts, each of which is dedicated to a specific South Asian classical dance style, geographic region, and time period. This solo dance theatre work performed by Kiran Rajagopal has been commissioned by the Prakriti Dance and premiered in full at the first Festival of Solos on October 20th, 2019. The first act, performed in Kandyan dance style of Sri Lanka with live percussion, was presented in Ramapo College Bury Center, made in New Jersey, online series, on March 25th, 2021. Accompanying Kiran on the Kandyan drums are Dilhan Pinnagoda and Indika Udaya Kumara. Act 1, Lanka. Long ago, Sri Lanka was comprised of several powerful tribal kingdoms, each with dominion over islands' immense natural and supernatural resources. Vaisravana, commonly known as Kubera, is the powerful ruler of the Yakshas, Lanka's indigenous tribe of magical healers and shamans coveted for their knowledge of the earth's treasures. The sudden arrival of the Aryans into the Lanka compels Kubera to take drastic measures to thwart invasion. We are extremely grateful to Vidwan Kiran Rajagopalan as he takes us back in time and relives his memory of Guru Shri S. Natarajan and Guru Patini Srimati Anuradha Natarajan. It was endearing to learn that some of his sequences in this theatre work were the inspirations he drew from Guru Natarajan's portrayal of characters. Listen to his engrossing experience as he relives his experience at Melator. In spite of his busy schedule, he ensures his tribute came on time for Vidyalaya, and he wishes Vidyalaya in its efforts ahead for transforming the society through art.
Namaskaram and hello, this is Kiran Rajgopalan, and you may know me also by my married name of Kiran James. I am a Chicago-based Bharatanatyam dancer, choreographer, educator, and podcaster. I recently moved to Chicago to take on a new role as executive director of Kalapriya, which is a South Asian arts organization based in downtown Chicago. And I am really honored and thrilled to be able to speak about one of the most important people in my artistic journey, Kale Mamani Sri S. Natarajan, or Natarajan Mama as I affectionately called him. He has had a profound influence on my journey as an artist. And so this tribute to him is going to not necessarily be chronological, but more thematic in nature as I reflect upon not only the experiences of being part of the Bhagavata Mela Natakams in Melator, but also the guidance and mentorship that Melator S. Natarajan sir has provided me over the years. And with that, I'd like to start off with a memory from October of 2022, which was my most recent visit to India. And I had visited with my now husband, and we were staying in Tanjavur for a few days, and just I was taking him around to the various places in Tanjavur that were important to me. And we're on a pilgrimage to see and visit the Saraswati Koval in Kutanur. So during our trip to Kutanur, we were supposed to take a route that took us south towards Thiruvarur, but the road that was going towards Kutanur that way was actually closed. There must have been some flooding or something that happened because we were diverted to a northern route which actually took us through Melatur unexpectedly. And so we were passing through some villages and I said, I recognize this. And then suddenly I realized that we were near Melatur. And lo and behold, we arrived and passing through Melatur, I said, we need to stop here for just a second. My husband was like, why are we stopping here? And I said, this is one of the most important places for me because Bhagavata Mela has had such an impact on my journey as a dancer. We stopped and we went to the Varadaraja Perumal Koval, but it was closed, unfortunately. The nearby Unnatapurishwara Koval was actually open, so we went in, and the Vadyar there remembered me from when I was participating in the Bhagavata Mela Natakams 10 years prior. And we spoke at length, and we spoke so warmly about Natarajan Mama, and I also talked about how I had such an amazing time with the kids in the village, not really a village, just in the small town, and how much I had learned in the process of just being in the various natakams during the week-long period of Narasimha Jayanti celebrations. And so I showed him where the Agraharam was for the Varadaraja Perumal Koval, where the Sannidhi and all that for the stage was being set up each year. And then we went to Kutanur afterwards. So I'm going to now rewind back actually to the first time I visited Mela Tour, which was in May of 2010. And that was through ABHAI, the Association of Bharatanatyam Artists in India. And Dr. Padma Subramaniam had organized a tour of Tanjavur along with a visit to Mela Tour during Narasimha Jayanti to witness the Bhagavata Mela performances and the Natakams, and to also be part of the Narasimha Jayanti celebration. So there were about 15 or 20 of us dance students and teachers who were in this group. And Nataraja and Mama had arranged that we would learn some Bhagavata Mela Dharus from some of the Natakams. The first one that we learned was Nera Namitini in Saveri Ragam, and this comes from the Natakam Sati Savitri. And the second one we learned was Mohametula Chetune in Ananda Bhairavi Ragam, and this comes from Harihara Vilasam. So the first one, Nera Namitini, seems like outside of its context, it's just a straightforward bhakti piece with beautiful lyrics, of course, in praise of the goddess Savitri. But the way we had learned it, we learned it in two ways. And this was, the first way we learned it, of course, was straight. Neratnam mitini ni vegatiyani nikila loka paripalini savitri. And then the second way that we learned it was basically in service to the Natakam, in which Savitri's parents, who were childless at the time, had come on a pilgrimage to the Savitri temple and prayed for a child. So then all of a sudden it took on a very different meaning, because it becomes, Neranam mitini nivegatiyani Nikila loka paripalini savitri. And so we learned about the importance of characterization and dramatic context because of that. The second piece was actually my favorite, Mohametula Chetune, because I also had an affinity and a penchant for Sringara pieces. So Mohametula Chetune basically means, this rising moham or infatuation is happening. How can I bear it? O Ramane, ye mani tami tagane. How can I bear this? And so when you learn it as a typical Shringara piece, Mohametula Chetune o Ramane Ye manita mitagane is one way that we had learned it. Then in Bhagavata Mela, the way the sancharis are done, it's not just usual sancharis, but they're done in character and done to move the story forward. And so I said this is from Harihara Vilasam, and this is the moment that Vishnu appears as Mohini. And she's trying to entice and lure Bhasmasura, but the way she does it is really crafty. She pretends that upon seeing Bhasmasura, she's fallen madly in love with infatuation. It's unbearable. So she puts on a show. The way that it's dramatized in the Natakam, in this interpretation, was that there was a fictitious kind of Rama temple or a temple of some sort where she's beseeching the deity there and complaining and sort of putting on a show, but carefully observing what Bhasmasura is doing at the same time. I immediately fell in love with this style of abhinaya and interpretation in Bhagavata Mela, and I wanted to learn more. And I think Natarajan Mama had sensed this kind of enthusiasm that I had, because he essentially recruited me to join the Bhagavata Mela troupe. And so fast forward to November of 2020, and the first Bhagavata Mela Natakam that I actually participated in was in the Narasimha Koval in Ahobilam, and that was the very famous Natakam Prahalada Charitram. The role that I was assigned was actually a Stri Vesham, or feminine role in feminine costume, as Lilavati, or Prahalada's mother, the friend or the Saki of Lilavati. And so I was nervous because I never really had done Stri Vesham before in my life. I had learned Nayaka Bhava and all that in Bharatanatyam and performed Shringara Padams and all that in performances in Ashtapadis, but I hadn't really donned a female character before. So they were putting on the costume and the makeup and all that, and I started to hear comments, "Ayyo, bomba bandi arke." Like all that kind of stuff. And I was very curious because I couldn't see in the mirror what had happened. And so finally, when everything was done, I looked at myself in a mirror and I was completely shocked at the transformation. A 6 foot tall Indian American kid transformed into a 6 foot tall South Indian supermodel. It was crazy. But the experience of doing the Natakam and experience of learning to move in the feminine costume was very, very important, because Melatur Natarajan sir had always stressed to me about how in Bhagavata Mela you're not supposed to overly dramatize or overly make coquettish the female characters, because you're in costume and it already heightens the perception. So the costume does about 2/3 of the work, he had once said to me. So you have to be subtle and you have to be nuanced, and you have to understand how your body language shifts because you're in Stri Vesham. Everything is heavy with Tale Saman, so your head naturally tilts down a bit. You are covered. You are also you're also in a sari, so you start to understand the way a sari drape feels. All that really enhanced my understanding of Nayika Bhava when I perform in Bharatanatyam in what we call Ekaharya Lasyanga, or in just single costume. And in this case, Purusha Vesham, or male costume for me. So that was really, really enlightening, my first time doing Stri Vesham, but I was typecast by Natarajan Mama after that to do almost exclusively Stri Vesham. So other roles, of course, were Sita in Sita Kalyanam, Kausalya, many other roles. And I want to draw attention to another incident that happened, which was later on. One of the natakams that we end the Bhagavata Mela festival with during Narasimha Jayanti is not in actually Chase Telugu, but it's in Tamil, and that's Valli Kalyanam. And Valli Kalyanam requires many of the cast to be able to speak eloquently in Tamil, something that I am not very well equipped to do. I was barely able to do it in Telugu for Prahalada Charitram, but I certainly could not do it in Tamil extempo. And so Bhagavata Mela is all about spontaneity and collaboration and understanding how to work in a group dynamic. Those are all things that were really important to take away from and to imbibe. So in Valli Kalyanam, I was actually assigned the role of the dumb and deaf Saki for obvious reasons. And it was a running joke with everybody in the troupe. And the kids always used to tease me about my Tamil accent being heavily Americanized in some instances. Anyway, my role was actually to serve as entertainment during the many different costume changes that took place. So for example, I was asked to perform a Tamil composition because obviously for Valli Kalyanam, you can't perform anything but Tamil. And I asked the musicians before we started the natakam what Tamil songs that they knew. Or they asked me, and I started to name them, and they're like, I don't know this. Enek theriyadu. Anda paatu theriyadu. And we just kept going through them, and I was going through my list of songs that I knew well, and all of them they didn't know. Or they didn't know right off the top of their heads, so that they could just kind of sing it spontaneously on stage. So I started to go through pieces that I'd learned, or I had seen, or I was very familiar with, but never performed or practiced. I finally got to Terivil Varano in Kamas Ragam, Muttatandavar Padam, and basically he said, I know this song. Let's do it. And I said, I haven't performed. He's like, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. And I said, okay. So it was my turn to perform, and we started Terivil Varano, and I knew I had to do it for about 5 to 10 minutes. And I started to do it. It was going pretty well. I'm a little, I was really self-conscious because I'd never practiced it once, not even with the musicians. And I started suddenly seeing the dancers telling me to keep going. They were signaling to me. And I was like, okay. Kept going and going and going, the charanam. And it just kept going, and I kept looking at the musicians. They said, keep going, he's not done yet, keep going, keep going. And Terivil Varano probably stretched out for nearly a half an hour. And by the time I was done, I exited the stage. I was like, oh my God, I just kind of made a fool of myself just extending and extending that song. But Nataraja Mama came up to me afterwards, and he said he was really, really impressed and really, really proud of me, because he said that was beautiful. And I was like, are you kidding me? I had never practiced this piece. It was acha madri, like just doing some nonsense. And he said, no. There was something that must have happened, because I think you started to feel comfortable when you were given time and space to just improvise. And I said, you know what? You're actually kind of right, because midway through, I just sort of gave up and just surrendered. Said, okay, I have to do this. I don't know when it's going to end. I'll figure it out. And I just went with it. Versus like the conscious deliberateness to deliver something that is pakka correct. I had to deliver something that was spontaneous and from the heart. It taught me that, to trust my training, to trust that the training that I had is thorough. It's been really good. It's been consistent, and that it'll always be there for me as a support. And that's what I took away from that. The last thing I wanted to share was that Natarajan Mama had told me before I left for the US in 2014, was that he felt like that my mark as an artist would not necessarily be just through Bharatanatyam. I thought he meant Bhagavata Mela, and he probably meant that to an extent. But the trajectory of my life when I moved back to the US actually turned out to be very, very interesting. I had taken so much of the interpretation of Abhinaya in Bhagavata Mela into the way in which I approached my own choreography and my own approach to Abhinaya compositions that I performed in Bharatanatyam. And that approach to characterization and spontaneity and manodharma, I will continue to carry with me. But more importantly, the spirit of collaboration is what I took from Bhagavata Mela, because I ended up having to start developing cross-cultural pieces out of both necessity and interest. So one of the first pieces I worked on was Twin Rivers, which looked at the West African religious tradition of Yoruba, and of course Hinduism from South Asia. And we looked at mythology and iconography of the deities between both traditions, where there's tremendous overlap. But I couldn't use just Bharatanatyam to do this kind of production. So I started to delve into Afro-Orisha dancing in conversation with Bharatanatyam and blended the two together. And something interesting happened. And a lot of it was improvised, because Afro-Orisha dance by nature is improvised versus highly codified like Bharatanatyam is. Then the second production that was also cross-cultural actually was exploring Kandyan dance, because I was commissioned to do a piece on Kubera. And Kubera's origins lie in Sri Lanka. How can I not perform Kandyan dance if I'm doing a character that hails from Sri Lanka. So it just made so much sense to the character and to the ethos of this character being a tribal, of the Yaksha tribe from Sri Lanka. Kandyan dance with its percussion and ritualistic and abstract movements work perfectly. I got that perspective from Bhagavata Mela, which is in service to the drama. And so the music, the dance, the interpretations, all in service to the drama. And that's kind of the approach that I took with this too. And so it turns out that a lot of my work focuses on drama and storytelling, which are the hallmarks of Bhagavata Mela. And the years of guidance, of mentorship from Nataraja and Mama still carried me to this day. And I cannot thank him enough. I cannot thank my Bhagavata Mela family enough. All the annas in the troupe, the elders, the kids that I participated with. All these people have had a tremendous impact on my growth and development as a dancer. And this would not have been possible without Nataraja and Mama's guidance and leadership and dedication to keeping the tradition of Bhagavata Mela alive. And with that, I wanted to thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak about this incredible artist and this incredible patron and this incredible, incredible man who has done tremendous service for South Indian art. Thank you, and I wish you all the very best.
Vaisravana, 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 Vaisravana,
Vaisravana,
Vaisravana,
Vaisravana,
Vaisravana,
Vaisravana,
Vaisravana, Vaisravana,
Vaisravana,
Vaisravana, Kubera,
Kubera,
Kubera, Kubera, Kumbera, Kubera, Kumbera, 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 Kuvera, Kuvera, Kuvira, Kuvera, Kuvira, 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 Kuvira.
The truth is,
I still cannot understand why I was so unjustly exiled from Lanka. You see, the 4 tribes maintained a delicate balance of power, each taking turns to rule Lanka. Now, it was my turn to rule. Why would Ravana ever think that I would betray our kinsmen like that? As king, I had to be strategic. I had to keep the Aryans at bay because disease and pestilence started to ravage our land and people. And so I agreed to be treasurer to their gods. And I began to slowly disperse some of our precious gold and gems. And that kept them satisfied for a while. But I paid the ultimate price, while Ravana sank Lanka into further ruin. Ha!
सर्वत्र गोविंद नाम संकीर्तनम्